Stephen Mulindwa, and I do hope that, as usual, you had a wonderful weekend. We were discussing Sudan last week, and we had some kind of technical hiccup, but we're back again with Sudan again. My two guests are back in the studio today to make sure that we make sure that Sudan is on a record as going a full way. Can you introduce yourself, please, once again?
My name's Andrew Kwong.
Kwong?
Mawan Motat.
Thank you very, very much for coming again, former minister. Of course, I did all the introduction, and you can say that later on about where you've been, what you've done, and so that saves our listeners knowing a lot about the knowledge that you have, and you as well. Tell the listeners, you're both Sudanese.
South Sudan.
South Sudanese. Oh, beg your pardon. South Sudanese. Could you tell us something in short about yourself?
My name is Andrew Kwong,
Okay.
former Minister of Health and former Minister of Information and Communication, former Secretary General of South Sudan Democratic Forum, former, and the last time, by 2013, I was a member of the Constitutional Review Commission
Okay.
for South Sudan. Now I'm currently the advisor of political parties affairs with the SPLM-SPLA-IO.
Oh, right. All right.
Led by Dr. Riek Machar.
Yeah, great. You're the man who knows who have all the answers. How about yourself?
Oh, my name is Mawan Motat.
Yeah.
I actually came quite young, just soon after finishing university in Egypt, and I came here to do some further studies.
You're in Egypt before.
Yeah. Of course, grew up in South Sudan, grew up in Sudan, different areas of Sudan.
Okay.
Then came to Egypt to do my degree, and then I came to the UK in the early 80s
Okay.
to do my master's. And then I switched into IT, and I worked in IT for the last 25, 26 years.
You've done agriculture as well, by the way.
I had an agricultural background, agriculture degree, which
Yeah.
I did a master's as well, but
Yeah.
I've never actually...
You've never worked in that?
Unfortunately, never practiced it because of the issues back home.
Yeah.
We're still waiting.
Yeah.
If I get home now, I will go back.
You probably go back to agriculture.
I'll cultivate something just to try out.
That's what
to
Sudan...
make use of the degree.
That's what Sudan needs quite a lot. It needs that. Now, with ever since Sudan got its independence, of course, from northern Sudan, I should say, from Sudan to Sudan, that's on the 9th of July 2011, a lot has happened. There was a civil war, obviously, before getting that, and then, of course, there have been divisions within the previous government. Then, of course, Galanga dies. The history is there anyway in the books for anybody who really wants to go and have a look at it. But obviously, if you're aware, there was a peace treaty signed less than 2 weeks ago. Now, we're trying to find out, is this treaty going to work? Is there something that might send us backwards? Is there something that is going to be good and the best for this country? What is going on in South Sudan at the moment? The gentleman here, there's two gentlemen here have wider knowledge about their country, and obviously they will tell us in detail. One of them has actually written a couple of articles, and one of them was written even before the incidences happened. It was like a prediction. I should think, I don't know how, but he had foreseen the future of what was going to happen. And he has also tried at his level best to advise that we shouldn't go. Certain steps should be taken. Anyway, let's go in details. What do you really think this new agreement is going to achieve?
Thank you very much for your time, and I would like to thank you and thank your viewers.
Okay.
Giving us this opportunity to really discuss a very important issue about South Sudan. Basically, we are South Sudanese after our independence, which we work hard to achieve. We never thought of a war among ourselves. Unfortunately, in 2013, this kind of a war broke out. All of us were surprised. It was only few that had been planning to come up with an option of war. South Sudanese were happy after 50 years of a struggle with the North Sudan, achieving the independence with the objective goal for South Sudan.
Of course, of course.
Now, peace is good. Peace is very important for our people because since the war broke out in 2013, we had this suffering. People died, and people continue to die from that time until today. You have a lot of people in refugee camps. You have a lot of people in the POCs inside the capitals of Juba and other capitals of South Sudan. And all of us as responsible people were bothered by the situation.
Yeah.
We need peace by all means. It is not up to us, the IO. It is not up to the government.
Yeah.
We care about our people, and that's why we signed this peace agreement. However, our hope for this peace agreement is to hold.
Yeah.
And we should actually achieve peace agreement for our people.
Yeah.
And that's why, from the very beginning, we never see the war or fighting as an option.
Okay.
We always seek reconciliation and peace for our people because we know the suffering communities are the normal citizens, you know, and we need to bring that peace for them.
Could we say that the death of John Garang was a catalyst that began everything? Because when he was in office, there wasn't anything. He was a man who was holding, because you do mention that a bit in your article, if I may come to you, in a sense that, you know, he was like a father of the nation after a massive, long war, whatever he had achieved. And maybe the mistake, and he mentioned the word maybe, was in some of the people he had selected around him, you know, who didn't carry the same vision as him. So that when he went, in the circumstances he did, in a helicopter crash, the entire vision went with him?
Yeah, in fact, we could just qualify what you've said. What you've said largely is correct. We just need to qualify it a little bit.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. Of course, I mean, there was a lot of crises. There were a lot of crises under Garang as well.
Mm-hmm.
So if you may remember.
When he was in office, yeah.
I remember. He was not in office.
Yeah, oh, sorry. Yeah.
Garang was a guerrilla leader. He commanded the SPLA from 1983 until 2005.
Okay.
In 2005, a peace agreement was signed to finish this 22 years war, 22-year war against North Sudan. On the basis of which the CPA, Comprehensive Peace Agreement, was signed, that opened the way for the referendum that led to the independence of South Sudan. So that's a history set straight from 1983 onwards.
Okay.
So for the majority of his life, political life, Garang was commanding the SPLA as a liberation movement in the jungle. Once the agreement was signed, he came in and he only governed for 3 weeks, and then he died in the So then we cannot discuss those, you cannot think of those 3 weeks as a period of reign. His reign is the 22 years. He was accepted in the end as a father of the nation, but he wasn't always accepted. Most of the wars that we are seeing today are a repeat of what happened during our liberation struggle.
Okay.
In fact, many people believe that South Sudan became unstable because we have not really come to terms with those wars. Once Garang came in, we were able to put those conflicts aside and speak in one voice with the North until we signed the peace agreement. Unfortunately, Garang died. But when Garang died, there was a long period of 6 years in which anything could have happened. But the South Sudanese behaved well. They kept together, including Riek Machar, including Kir Mayardit, including many of the people who were in the SPLM. In fact, they were able to sail South Sudan through one of the most rocky periods because it was not clear that this independence was going to happen. So independence happened even though Garang was not there. The problem now is that the South Sudanese seem to have a history or a capacity to come together when the external threat is maximum. But when it comes to how they're going to arrange their own home and who is going to take, this is where
a different story.
This is exactly, and this is where the problem starts. And I think you could see maybe examples like that in Africa. You know, after independence, we know Joshua Nkrumah and famously with Robert Mugabe when in a terrible period of war. This is not to belittle what we have. It's a huge responsibility on these guys. And in many ways, they have actually failed people, because after the 50 years war of resistance against the North, like my brother was saying, Qual, is in 2011, the South Sudanese were dreaming only of permanent peace.
Yeah.
It never crossed anybody's mind that within a few years we're going back to fight. We were going to bury all the differences that we've had before.
Yeah.
And create
this in Kenya as well. Kenya fought with the Kenyatta. They had a massive long war of independence. Eventually, after independence, they had the Kikuyus were having problems with the Jaluos, and they had started that. And Kenyatta had to stand firm. As he said, no, 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 we didn't fight this to fight ourselves. He actually stood firm and was holding on to Kenya all the way along until the day he died. And they were very worried to say, look, when he dies, he's gone now. We made the Kikuyus and so what I'm trying to say is it comes down to
leadership
the
is a huge issue in South Sudan, but it's a shared leadership.
Yeah.
You know, there's a slight difference between many of the African countries and South Sudan.
Okay.
Because the South Sudanese road for independence was not at all like the African
but other African states,
where they inherited from Europeans, with almost the nations intact, with infrastructure, with trade and stuff like that. South Sudan was not like that. South Sudan was a messy war in which 2.5 million died, and there had never been any infrastructure in South Sudan in the first place. So when we came to build our country, it was almost a matter of starting from scratch. To make things worse, our army was not a traditional army that was
well trained.
Which was well trained and has well trained. The SPLA has a good fighting capacity, but it has terrible discipline. And this is where the issue is a volunteer war, a volunteer army, where the majority of people who make up the SPLA are young men who said, I'm fed up, I'm going to liberate my country from the north. They have killed my uncle, they've killed my dad, they've burned my village, they've taken our cattle. We're going to go together and fight. And all the South Sudanese went and fought for this country. And that led to independence. But the result was we had this huge army, which was very fragile, that in the past had fought against each other. Itself, you see, and also the leaders themselves were bitter enemies.
Of course,
So my prediction, I think many people would be very doubtful whether Garang would have held it together as well, because he could not hold the same men together in the past. So the same thing would have happened. I think what people have said, which might have been true, is as soon as the war was won and South Sudan was won, the first thing our leaders should have done is a truth and reconciliation process. I think that's what a lot of people called for. They should have called the neighboring countries and said, look, we are fragile, our unity is fragile. We need to go back to how we got here and basically mend the differences that we had in the past. That was not done. They just thought they could bury them under the sand and move on, and that was a terrible
I think
mistake.
to a certain extent, the involvement of external forces is a major issue here. The British is one of those external forces. The Ugandans is another external force.
Which period are you talking about?
I'm talking about the period immediately after the death of Garanga. Everybody was jumping in to help President Kiir to try and steer the country. But then he didn't know which direction he should go to. Should he go towards Uganda? Should he go towards what the British are saying? Because the non-voluntary organizations that were in the country at the time were trying, because they do that, they put their influence. Then the Christian organizations, and then of course the Christians and the religious organizations, they come in. Then you find the chiefs, all the people who are lower, also have an influence in whatever is going on. So you find that mixture can't add up. And you did mention it a little bit. Anyway, let's hear what...
The death of Dr. John, whether what had happened after that could have happened, was actually not in the mind of everybody.
It wasn't.
When Dr. John signed an agreement with the government of Sudan, the Sudanese entirely, south, north, west, east, had seen that the vision of John Garang was going to bring a very good chance for Sudan to be united based on their diversities. Because in the first place, it was only the elites in Khartoum that was calling Sudan is Sudan. And imagine in the Sudan, you know, if you are a non-Muslim, you can never come into an issue of becoming the future president of Sudan.
Yeah.
So there was marginalization of many, the South Sudanese Christian or even the Western Sudanese Muslim, who are purely 100% Muslims, were also marginalized. The Eastern Sudanese. It is only the Khartoum elites
it's only Khartoum,
that was ruling Sudan. When John Garang brought an idea of equality, justice, diversity, everybody, every Sudanese wanted to enjoy that. When peace agreement was signed, people were united under the future of vision from John Garang that want to see Sudan united and equal. And everybody, including the North Sudanese, were saying that, well, the election is coming. We're going to elect John Garang into power. We need to implement what he's saying, right? And all of us as South Sudanese, even though we contested the idea of liberation of Sudan as early as 1983, that was our argument with John Garang. We told John Garang, look, the Northern Sudanese will never change from Islamization, Arabization, you know, people who have lost their identity. African calling themselves Arabs.
Of course.
They could be Muslim, like Nigeria, they could be Muslim, anybody could be with any religion. But the Sudanese politics was completely out of order. They lost their identity. The very Sudan that was well known as the largest country in Africa was reduced to just some elites in Khartoum, Al-Mahdiya, Al-Marghaniya, and it was only the communists that was actually looking into Sudan in a larger form. But this group, they are seeing it a family thing. So if John Garang was to continue or tribal life, what happened in 2013 would have never happened. Because similar thing had happened actually. Because when the Nuer people established the Anyanya movement, which they call Anyanya too, when John Garang came, they saw their leader has come. And they give John Garang ways to continue with it, even though they disagree and clashes have happened.
He was the only man then.
People died.
Who could do something,
People died, like, for example, Samuel Guy Tut had to die and all those kind of things. I call it petty because Guy would have never died. It is just a flavor of similar thing like 2013, tribal thing that have happened. And then John Garang had to continue to reorganize and reunite the SPLM. And all of us who were seeking for independence of South Sudan had also given John Garang the chance to say, well, if a Sudan al-Kabir, the biggest Sudan, become united with equality and justice, why not? We don't reject to become part of Sudan. But we were rejected our marginalized group. We were not of any class rather than the last zero class in the Sudan. So John Garang, if he was going to be alive, such things, that was the trigger of 2013, which was completely tribal.
It should have been different.
It was completely tribal. John Garang would have never seen that happen.
As a minister then in government, when you sit down with your government officials and others, what was always the main issue at the meetings, that topics? Say, look, this is what we need to do. Because this is where, again, I always look at leadership as a major issue. Because what fails leaders is they fail to spread the message across very well. We see this in Uganda, we see this in Kenya, we see this everywhere in Africa, when ministers themselves are delivering a different message. Now, as a minister then, the message you are delivering to the South Sudanese people, is there something in there that you couldn't foresee really?
That's a good question.
This is where the direction we want to go?
Because basically when I was a minister, I was sharing 7 political parties of South Sudanese.
Really?
Yes. In the States. My message and the message of my political party was that because the North were not interested in the unity of Sudan, the thing that was agreed upon to give unity a chance, the North Sudanese government was not doing it. So we, the South Sudanese who wish to have independence, we organize ourselves. We say, look, we can only organize ourselves. Our bigger brother, the SPLM, must be with us.
Of course.
And President Salva Kiir was very flexible and actually we convinced him as early as 2002, because when he signed the right of self-determination in Machakos to be involved in the election, I mean in the agreement, it was very clear to us that we were in understanding with President Kiir. So then we in the government, we were actually working towards the referendum. It was very clear that the North, after John Garang died, the North was not interested
in doing that.
And there was no John Garang who will tell us, oh, there's a future Sudan. So then we were working towards that, united with the SPLM. But within the SPLM, there are two groups that brought problems. First, there was this group that called itself the SPLM al-Asli, the SPLM proper. This SPLM proper, looking into the situation beyond South Sudan, beyond Sudan, you know, they believed that Sudan can be united, and they were not doing anything about it because they were not convincing the North to come to their senses, or the Northern Sudanese opposition that they call SPLM North. They were not doing anything. The main SPLM, actually, after John Garang, it was very clear they were divided into 5 groups. You know, and in the 5 groups were different messages coming up and there. One of them is this SPLM proper. The second thing, there was a hidden group under the shadow calling itself the Jiang Council of Elders. These Jiang Council of Elders were actually using powers of President Kiir. They were struggling with this SPLM and Asli, which were actually another name they called them, Garang Boys or Nyandeng Boys.
If I may cut you short there, money came into SPLM. It came in, and he did mention a little bit of that in one of his articles. I've been very observant and going through some of what you wrote. One of the biggest problems is you got a lot of funders who discovered suddenly there will be oil in South Sudan. And obviously, the money will be coming in. And among them were the Kenyans, the Ugandans, and of course the other groups. And then, of course, the Western groups like Poland, and so on, that were also very keen on that. And when money came in, it did the same thing in Angola. You know, when Savimbi was trying to take over power in Angola and all that. So money has always been a major problem. Now, as somebody who was in there, you didn't see these groups breaking up because of the funding. Because he did mention money.
Honestly, he may help later on. When we came in 2005, Steve, we were very happy. Our vision to go from Sudan was very clear.
Of course.
We were united with the President Salva Kiir. And even those issues that I mentioned were completely minor. The reason why we were surprised in 2013 there was a war like this is simply because we saw it just minor. The most important issue was to get independent, which we achieved. By the way, we were ready for a nation. It is not true that people are saying that, oh, South Sudanese will never manage themselves at all. We could manage ourselves.
You could.
You know, our top cream of our leadership is actually very educated.
Of course.
How could you say this? Some of them were actually lecturers in universities,
in America,
in America, in UK, in Sudan. How could you say to a group of people like that that they cannot manage themselves? It was just an insult. However, we had money. When I was a minister in Unity States, we had the 2%, which is completely good money.
Of course.
You know, the South Sudanese started by saying that we should receive our salaries in dollars.
I agree.
And we said, look, if you receive your salary in dollars is a foreign currency. Where is your nationalism here?
Exactly.
You must have your money, your currency.
Ugandans just go there.
So
we had in dollars.
We had money. South Sudan became the center of neighboring country. The great state were pouring in.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, everything coming from our neighbors. We were very happy to share
of course.
our cake with our brothers, the Ugandans, the Kenyans, the Ethiopian, the Eritrean, even the Sudanese were enjoying the cakes that we have. In fact, without this war, South Sudan would have been the center of unity of Great Lakes or East Africa.
The Great Lake region.
And we were very happy to receive our brother, because in most cases, we've been long time refugees in those places.
Yeah, of course.
Everybody came in with his friends.
Yeah, I
you
know.
Even the leaders.
Yeah,
You will find a bunch of people coming with Salva Kiir, his friends in Kenya or Ethiopia or the same thing to Dr. Riek.
I popped in as well from Uganda.
Yes.
At one time.
We were happy. We were very happy.
And we were really welcome. And the Ugandans were making a lot of money from that.
We see South Sudan is a ground for all the Africans. We were very happy to see everybody. We had the money. We had money.
What do we do now? There is a big issue. Like if we talk about the present, the recent information I got, obviously, is that the selection of the cabinet, my country has a hand in it. I don't know whether this is true or not. They are saying, look, so-and-so should be given a post in that cabinet. And I think there is another, I don't know whether it's the British or some, usually Western influence comes in slowly. Ethiopians are also having a small hand in. But, you know, what surprised me is that the wife of the doctor who is the vice president, as, you know, his name has appeared somewhere, not even from her husband, but from someone outside saying, look, she should be given a post in government. I read about this today, and I was saying, hang on a minute, who is giving instructions now that, you know, okay, this information is from home, back home in Uganda, but at the end of the day, it's a bit of a surprise that, hang on a minute, these people have their own independent country. Their own, the agreement is signed. They've got to get their own ministers in order. Already the dispute is between who should be in the cabinet. This former minister should maybe be in the cabinet as well. You know, former people. But someone else is trying to come in and try to influence what's going on. Can there be?
I want to go back a little bit, and I want to talk about three things.
The
first one is oil. How the country became rich. The second thing I want to talk about is whether South Sudanese can rule themselves, and why is it we don't seem to be able to sit together and not fall out. And then the third thing I want to talk about is the influence of outsiders.
So
let me start with the influence outsiders.
That's very important.
Let me start with the influence outsiders. My particular opinion is, if your house is already broken, then it's very easy for someone else to come
to jump in.
So the blame must always go back to our leaders. Because if they behave like grown people, if they were united solidly, nobody would dare interfere with South Sudan.
Of course.
So because there is a crack, they can come. Not only is there a crack, when there's a crack, some of us go and seek and invite those outsiders. So the blame comes to South Sudanese or the outsiders. Of course, the neighboring countries, the West, everybody wants to seek what is for the benefit of their nation. So they will look in South Sudan, trade opportunities, enrichment opportunities, and of course they will do their best to benefit from whatever situation is there in South Sudan. But the responsibility must go back to our leaders. So the issue here is our unity is fragile, and it has always been fragile historically. So I want to go back to that. So you mentioned oil, and that people saw after the independence of this country is rich. But South Sudan has been rich for a long time. Oil had already come out long before the war. And Sudan was buzzing with our money. Our money, all our oil money was going to North Sudan to build roads and build bridges and so on while we were fighting. And actually being used to buy the weapons to kill us.
Exactly.
But despite that, South Sudan
survived,
exactly. And it stood and got what it needed. However, money is important that you've mentioned the money, because money is one of the corrupting factors. We came from the jungle, or people came from the jungle fighting. They volunteered. People have spent 20 years. They went as young men, and they spent 20 years fighting, not thinking what they're going to eat tomorrow, how they're going to survive, where their children are, where their wives are. They dedicated themselves to this particular
to the war.
And then overnight, millions are brought in sacks from Khartoum. This is the the South Sudanese share.
Yeah,
They don't know how to manage them. We had no banks. Yes, we had educated people. But educated people got their degrees, their PhDs, and went to the jungle to fight. They were not running offices. So when the money came in a very disorderly way, I think it really corrupted our system. And it created, because we do not have institutions to organize how this money should be managed, especially, for example, salaries. People should just get their salaries. If you work, if you do a government job, or if you are a minister, you should get your salary at the end of the day. And that's your share. But it didn't work like that. Money was brought in boxes to ministers, and they can take as much as they wanted.
I know. You did mention, if I may.
So this was a big corrupting factor that I wanted to say regarding the money. Now I want to come now to the current state, and I want to say a little bit more about the factors that made it very difficult for us to unite. You see, I want to say something more general about Africa, which is really relevant to South Sudan. Maybe we have it.
It's fine. This is Africa Speaks. That's what we want.
We have it very extreme in South Sudan, but existing throughout Africa. If you look at the South African resistance and remember, for example, Buthelezi and Mandela and how we've been used against each other. And if you go to Zimbabwe, you remember Bishop Muzorewa almost destroyed the independence of Zimbabwe. There is this fragility where ethnic groups are set against each other. Sometimes we are made to feel ashamed about our tribes and hold our heads down. But you know, in a way, it's not our mistake, because our tribal boundaries were our national boundaries before the Europeans came. Yes, the Africans did not think of their tribe or nation as something completely separate from their neighbors. They interacted with their neighbors, they intermarried with their neighbors. But in Africa, every man, every family had land, or had cattle, or had sheep, or had goats, and he was self-contained. So the tribal boundaries were a natural boundary in Africa. But then the Europeans carved Africa even before they went in. And we know this. I really have to mention this because it's something that we often forget. The interior of Africa was divided even before the European entered the continent, because they wanted to be sure that once they got in, the French don't step on the toes of the British, and vice versa, the Germans. And
this could cause war. This could cause
war.
They
went through mountains, they went through hills, they went through tribes, they went through kingdoms. So, for example, the Azande Kingdom, the great Azande Kingdom of South Sudan, was split in three. So one part is in the Congo, one part in South Sudan, one part in Central African Republic. Now, each of them sits, I'm from Central African Republic, I'm from South Sudan, I'm from Congo. You are one people, you had one king. Okay? So, I think the problem we have in South Sudan, and I think in an extreme way, we probably have it in South Africa, is convincing this ancient culture to say, oh, that's the past. Now we are Sudanese. Or Kenyans, Ugandans. That is a very hard thing. To have the total loyalty in your heart is difficult. So this is one thing. And then, of course, even if we accepted it, we can say that the educated class that have come, educated, trained by the Europeans to think like the Europeans, they should have said, okay, this is now South Sudan. They should be ready to sacrifice their own lives, their future, their wealth, their ambition, in order to make this idea of a nation, a new nation, a reality. But that's not happening. That's not happening. What is happening is they are pursuing power and wealth and prestige at any cost, and that comes before that country. And therefore, they are ready to use their tribesmen, their ethnic groups, against others in order to
achieve their aims.
And this is the fragility of South Sudan. So, because we came under the British left and we came immediately under North Sudanese colonialism, what we used to call Arab colonialism, we continued to fight, and this fighting has led to the militarization of South Sudan. So the widespread firearms in the hands of many, many young men who are loyal to their villages, to their clans.
I know.
And this is very, very powerful. And there's nothing new about it, because that's what they've always done for centuries.
Exactly.
The only thing that has changed is the firearm. The spear now is the gun.
Is the gun,
But everything else remains the same. So if you are Nuer, you are Nuer, and that's a Dinka, is an ancient enemy. And the same thing for the Dinka. But not only that, the Dinka themselves are not an entity, because they are subdivided. The Nuers themselves are not a solid entity. So we are all these groups are fragile and open to division. So this is what is happening now. Because the political model we have in South Sudan is not a political model of when the elite or the governing people have sat down and said, this is our project for development. We have a plan, and we are going to employ people in such and such way. We're going to build so many bridges. We're going to open so many schools. We're going to encourage our farmers to produce more and open the markets for them. That is not the plan. The plan is a situation in which a politician tried to create a kind of small kingdom underneath him by buying and employing people and giving them opportunities. So the government, the structure of government, is opportunities for your loyals.
For
people who are loyal to you.
You did mention something that I'm trying to bring back to you.
Sure.
And that was in one of the articles that I read. And it was something to do with African institutions. And in fact, you mentioned that the biggest problem, not just of South Sudan, but you were mentioning the entire Africa, and I like that article very much, is that the institutions that are built, the Africa has failed to build institutions, and it's through institutions that Africa will evolve, because the institutions that we have, and then you of course mentioned Barack Obama. Obama mentioned it a couple of times when he says that the Western world's development is such because the Western world built stronger institutions, they built stronger parties. They made sure that the civil service is stronger than anybody tries to destabilize it. You are here in UK, you can see, if you read the papers every day, Boris Johnson has been trying to do something about getting those who are not royal to bridge exit so that they are out of the way. And the institution itself is telling him, no, you can't do that. You're part of the government. Any government can come in, but civil service remain, because it's there to serve the interests of the people of the United Kingdom and the nation. You can't keep changing top civil servants. You can even see one civil servant who has resigned recently in the Home Office, and there is a big scandal going on about the minister forcing, because if you get the top people out who are saying, hey, this is how things are run, no matter which amount of money you're giving us, this is the reason why the system has been running and how it's successful. And you mentioned that, and I said, wow, what a brilliant way. But the problem is, you need to get the leaders to build these institutions, first of all, but they build the institutions to suit them, not to suit the nation.
They are not willing.
Yeah,
The problem.
How do we go about that?
That is a challenge. I mean, just give an example. Belgium a few years ago went for 2 years without a government.
Oh, yeah.
But life continued because the institutions are still running.
Even Northern Ireland, they didn't have
it is the leaders.
Civil service. Civil servants were running
there.
It is the leaders in Africa, actually. It is the leaders in Africa, when they found that themselves in leadership, they wouldn't want to operate within the institution.
That's right.
Because they want to continue. And at the end, you call it dictatorship.
So what we
for
do?
Example,
we go civil disobedience?
For example, South Africa already established institutions. Would South Africa collapse institutionally simply because there's no system? The system is there. Zimbabwe, for example. At the end, the economy of Zimbabwe has gone down. Is it because there was no institution? No. It is leadership style, for example. So if I may come in, because I thought you also need to come in.
Can I just say something about the institutions?
Yes, institution and ministerial selection.
Yeah, you were going to come to them. We need to discuss that. But regarding institutions, I'll start with Belgium. And I think, just to be fair to Africa, first of all, let's remember, we had institutions, but they were ethnic institutions. Uganda had amazing institutions, thousands of years. But the Ugandan nation requires the Baganda institution to be dismantled and replaced by Western institutions.
Of course.
And the Baganda institutions don't want to die.
They've been
that is the problem of Africa. So what we are saying, what we are requiring in Africa is for the old to die and for the new to rise out of the ashes of the old. And that is not easy in human history. It takes a long time for that to happen. And I think that's what we're saying, that the only people who could do it are this elite who say, okay, since we found ourselves here, we have a Ugandan territory, we cannot break it out. Let's make the Lua and the Baganda and the Nyankule live in peace together. And how can we do it? Let's write institutions that can keep everybody happy. And then let's sacrifice ourselves by being committed to it as leaders to achieve it. But of course, this is where our leaders are failing. So what I'm saying as a solution is really it's not going to happen because we've tried in Africa. Coups have been done by young officers who are idealists. They came. We saw them in the 60s, the 70s. Most of them ended up being as corrupt as the people that they overthrew.
In fact,
they became dictators. I mean, as you see, I mean, one example is amazing revolutionary. An amazing revolutionary is your own president now.
At the moment.
That we celebrated. I remember 1984, we were celebrating his victory. But now he doesn't want to leave, like a typical African leader.
Of course.
So I think what's going to happen in Africa, so instead of us dreaming that the right people are going to come and do what we need to be done, occasionally it happens. We have, like, for example, we have the president of Rwanda now. It's amazing. I mean, what you've seen in Rwanda now it's we've seen what an African can do. We know what an African country can achieve.
He's being told as well.
But unfortunately,
to try and get a hair in place, because if anything happens to him now, it's very easy for some.
His system is not viable because he's done the opposite to what we're doing. He is correcting the country, but he's not building, because what institutions mean.
Exactly. That's what
is
he
that
said.
You build an institution in such a way that if you are not there, it runs as it was. But that's not what Paul Kagame is doing.
No, he's not doing that. He's not doing that.
And that's the tragedy of Rwanda.
It's exactly
but what he's done is what is possible in terms of building infrastructure and removing corruption. That can be done. But you need to develop the institutions. So what I'm going to say as a solution, I don't think that's a short-term solution, but I think young people, young people. If you've seen the Sudanese revolution, I don't know whether you followed it, the North Sudanese revolution. It's a remarkable revolution that was entirely peaceful. But they did not do it in one day. They taught and they educated their public and the young over no less than 2 or 3 decades of discussions and talking and writing. And I think that is what most of us need. That's what most Africa needs, is civil society.
Of course.
To be active, you talk to each other, you share ideas. And I think this knowledge, this sharing will reach a critical mass. At some point, every country varies. And every country is going to find itself at that moment when it's ready, actually to say, okay, we have changed now. But we cannot do it by top down, and I think we are expecting too much of our politicians.
But the thing is when people are so busy finding food to eat and surviving, the chances of them being going for disobedience is very difficult.
It doesn't have to be disobedience. No, you can do it peacefully. It's peacefully. You are raising the awareness of your people.
But there will always be. African issues that are difficult to be peaceful. The Martin Luther King way in America was okay because the system was there. Obviously, they couldn't kill a lot of our blacks there.
No, I was not talking so much about resistance. I'm not talking about resistance or overthrow the system. No. I'm talking about what we're doing now. You know what we're doing now is a very good example. Which is spreading knowledge, asking people to come out of their silence and talk to their neighbors and talk to their friends with their ideas in a very peaceful way. Encouraging people to read about what happened in other African countries before, in other developing countries, and we share these ideas. So as knowledge is totally peaceful, totally peaceful. Let the stability stay. Let these people sit on us. Let them eat, as the Africans say. Let them eat. But as long as we are stable, we'll be able to educate our children, our young, and then change will happen eventually.
Always.
I want to ask you something about...
always, if I need to add this. Always, if under circumstances of dictatorship, for example, call it Sudan, call it Uganda, call it anywhere.
Whatever you want,
And the good example, you cited it as the Sudanese civil revolution that just happened. To me, it did not go far enough. It did not go far enough. I could hear some voices calling for South Sudan to reunite with the North and all.
Oh, really? Yeah.
What did they do? What did they do? They did not do anything to liberate Sudan with that brilliant revolution supported by the entire world.
Of course.
You know, it was just at the vacuum. You know, under the circle of the old regime, Northern Sudanese in Khartoum, Shendi, with Madani, they did not even go far as to the east, the Sudanese who are still fighting, or Western Sudanese, who is actually the greater majority of Sudanese civil power or population.
Yeah.
They did not look into that. They could have actually put a mechanism that a flavor of United Sudan, and everybody will voluntarily say, oh, this is a new United Sudan is born, I will join. Then the South Sudanese may think twice. But we will never think twice because the North will never change. Even now, they got stuck simply with under that circle that cannot extend itself to the Sudanese opposition who are still fighting. They are not solving that problem.
No, they're not. They're not.
That is one thing. The other thing, under any dictatorship, there will be no civil activity.
Yeah, of course.
The South Sudanese had tried.
Yeah. It can't
But
work.
when it came to this centralization policy, gearing towards tribal direction, the civil organization that tried to revive and try to have voices collapsed. They could not go anywhere. Even with this negotiation, they tried to give their ideas as civil organization in South Sudan. It didn't work, simply because how to come into this peace was not even easy.
Yeah, it wasn't.
It was even imposed.
Yeah.
You know, some of us were saying that, look, it is a shame that peace is imposed on us. We must care for our people.
Yeah.
Our people are suffering. We understood the war of Sudan, of North-South, how long it would take. But with Southern Sudanese, what is it?
Yeah.
Is it the Nuer? Is it the Dinka? Is it the Anuak? Is it the Chuluk or the Morle? We are known one people.
Yeah, exactly.
We had worked under one spirit all along with the major enemy.
Yeah.
Who is our enemy in South Sudan?
At the moment.
And with this chance, I would actually call upon my Lone Nuer people, the White Army, to return home. There's no need of fighting a small group like Morle. Yes, Morle are people. Even if they are a small tribe, they will always exist. They are so beautiful with us, you know. And this reaction was brought about, you know, cattle raiders, those who have come and stolen children. These are not, cannot be called Morle people. They are thieves.
Yeah.
You cannot burn the whole village simply because of those thieves. Let us agree, the Morle and the Lone Nuer people, let them agree and find out where are these thieves.
Now,
it is not the tribe that is actually going on, you know, raiding the children and killing the. It is, by the way, political.
Yeah, it is.
It is political.
It's a political.
And it came out. Why? As soon as this idea of free administrative areas came up, and then this thing happened. I work in South Sudan as a minister of the state. What I knew and what I was reading was that whatever going on between Lone Nuer and the Morle, as well as the Dinkabur, is political.
Of course.
It's political.
No.
And if you look at it, we must relinquish from this politics of trying to isolate some tribes from their friends and from their traditional neighbors. We must not do that. We must not actually politicize the tribes. Let the tribe remain, because tribe have been there. Tribe will always be there. For example, the Nuer and the Dinka, if there is this crisis, if we cannot come to peace, what will be the end of it? Either you wipe out the Nuer, or you wipe out the Dinka. Who is going to benefit on this? and who is behind this? And behind this are a group of people who organize themselves in the name of tribe. Let us ask ourselves, who are these people? And we unite behind this, and we fight this group who is bringing this division.
It's easier said than done. I'm looking at the foreign forces issue. You discussed it a bit in one of your articles, because I've been going around, and then not only you, but a number of other Sudanese people. There's a lady also, Dr. Bell something. She also discussed the issue of a foreign troops into, because when the Ugandan went in and they stayed in, the problem was they had a side, and they had a side. So if we get an African army, for example, ECOWAS or something like that, which is which is not even within the neighboring area, could that help with the peace process?
No, not at all. Actually, we want to reduce that. We want to reduce, like we discussed earlier.
Yeah.
I think one good thing in this agreement now is we are back together again.
Okay.
And for a very long time, I find myself alone, among many Sudanese commentators, saying that actually let these two guys come together. A lot of people were advocating things that were completely unrealistic. For example, they wanted to say, okay, let South Sudan be taken by some international body like the UN, which is completely crazy because the South Sudanese would fight that as well.
Yeah, of course, they wouldn't want that,
Some people did suggest, okay, not the UN, but bring an African army. Again, we're against that. Some people say, okay, oust Riek and oust Kir. I say, okay, it's easy to say.
Yeah.
They've got armies.
The practical side of it.
Who's going to do it? So
Yeah.
instead of us talking about impractical issues, let's talk about the practical. And the practical is bring these two leaders together. And if you bring these two leaders together, you can bring the South Sudanese together. Because always when the leaders fall out, the people also fall out. It tends to be the mechanism in South Sudan and many places, I think. So we advocated that. And that happened in 2015. They came together. Unfortunately, that fell apart very quickly. But this is another time now. And we are praying that this time around, I think every South Sudanese is praying, that this time around it will work. So far, they are negotiating, as you said earlier, they are probably wrangling over portfolios, including the rumors that you said earlier. But
which ministers, who is this?
But all that is very important for each side because it's going to give them a strategic advantage. Because what's behind the scenes is that in 3 years' time, there's going to be elections, and we're not going to have the structure that we have now. South Sudanese should be free to choose their leaders. They want to position themselves in a position where it will be favorable to them. So it's politics as usual. And unfortunately, the politics in South Sudan tend to involve lives of innocent people, and that's what we want to avoid.
Yes.
So this time around, it's looking better, and I'll say why. Because this wrangling has been going on for a long time, but both sides are quiet as far as I'm concerned.
And they're tired, they've had enough.
They're dealing with this tension of posts, but they're doing it behind the scenes. And everything else that we hear is rumor, as far as I'm concerned. Nothing official has come out. Okay? And I think that is a good sign. It's a good sign. No one has come out crying yet. And I hope that by the end of this process, if they can come out by the end of this process with some kind of positions, I mean, like Andrea and me know that the way the portfolios are distributed now, it's nothing to do with capacity, it's nothing to do with merit or anything like that. But it's fine by us, because that's what's going to bring peace in our country. So people are moving each other like pieces of chess, on a chessboard.
The pieces are being put
on
together.
A chessboard,
here and there.
So I think, as far as I'm concerned, I wouldn't say I'm too optimistic, but what I'm trying to say, so far so good, because we're only hearing rumors. And I think if they are deliberating these things quietly, behind the scenes, wrestling arms and stuff like that, as long as it's peaceful and they could come up with something, that's what we need. Because we've always advocated that South Sudan is natural to disagree, but know when to stop, know when the situation has become too heated to produce the predictable cycle that we go through, which is people fighting and stuff like that. Know when to stop, know when to push. And I think we probably, through all these processes of fighting and coming together again, maybe we are learning.
It is a big learning process. I want to go a little bit.
When the gun was silent by signing the ceasefire, to me this
is it 18 months now, almost?
It's more.
It's more than.
It's
almost 2 years.
It's just great to have that ceasefire agreed upon and signed, because the suffering are the people who are actually on the ground. There shouldn't be any fighting. So people are now having a breathing space. The only thing that is left now, and I would like to thank the international community by actually pushing the two gentlemen together and to tell them that, you have to do this for your own people.
Exactly.
But it's still, the leaders must look into themselves, into their groups. because there is still a spoiler within those groups. I am sure if it is President Salva Kiir and Dr. Riek Machar, there wouldn't be any problem at all. These two gentlemen had been fighting in their struggle for 22 years. Yeah. They had worked together for 8 years. The achievement of independence of South Sudan was due to the harmony between both of them. They worked together. You know, look, I was attending meetings. When the president come up with addressing the meeting, I would say, enough. There's no question. There's no comment. We were towing the same line. Now, I would like to really see our president to be serious about this. Because, after all, who is the first responsible people to be blamed? Yeah. It's the president himself.
It's the president, yeah.
The president himself. Look, if his group is actually mishandling the whole thing, everybody will say, no, the president should be in control. Okay? Where on earth the other side select ministers for you? Okay. If we are coming together to share government, to share ministries, you cannot select the best minister for yourself and say, well, take this, because it doesn't work. Even in your own home, you cannot actually bless the African-like meat or some people. That's what you cannot select the best part of the meat and give it to yourself and take the bone to the other side. It wouldn't work. Secondly,
that's what is going on at the moment. That's why it's leaking to the media.
Secondly, you cannot appoint for the other side. It's a shame to hear that, the government want to select ministers to the other side. It will go back to what? Bribery. You want to select ministers on the other side because they will not listen to their leaders and they can only listen to you. And this is what happened in 2015. That was why there was 2016. That was the wrangling over which minister goes to who. And ministerial position became important than peace. Imagine if there was no war broke out in 2016. The South Sudanese would have been really dancing. There were children who died, or people who died would have never died at all. Because peace is good. Peace brings everything, progress to the people. Look, where is the economy of South Sudan? It has gone to zero. The South Sudan, because of oil, would have been, on the top. So what I'm trying to say, this thing should not go on like this. The mechanism was very clear. All the political parties are standing on the queue. The first group that select ministerial position is the government. For example, the two ministers will be put together, like defense and interior. If the government select defense, the next election will go to the next party. The same thing to Minister of Finance and Petroleum. If the government select, for example, finance, the next election will go to the other person, which could be the petroleum. But the third thing that I need to answer is that, again, if there's any involvement from outside, I can't come to your house, and favor your wife to do certain things without your permission.
No, of course, you can't do that.
It goes back again to this bribery. You want to strip naked of your other opponents, so that nobody listen to him. Including, where is this? The 2016 was because there was favoritism to Taban by the president, and Taban would have not gone far enough to do what he did. So this thing must be stopped. And the international community, from now on, whenever peace agreement is signed, they will always jump back and stay back, not coming back to see what is going on. What is going on, by the way, if it is not settled, is not very good, and will go back the same thing as 2016, which nobody wants.
Of course.
The international community must say, if IO is wrong, they should say to the IO, no, this is not our intention, it will not bring peace. If the government is doing this, they should say to the government, why are you dismantling peace? Because I am seeing my colleagues on the side of the government you know, they are doing the same thing that triggered this war in 2013.
Yeah,
and for example, the Minister of Information, Michael McQuaid, has been irritating, agitating all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't know what benefit will he get. Position? Or what is it? Our people are dying.
Yeah.
And my chairman, my former chairman, Dr. Martin Elia Lumoro, has forgotten completely that he has been the leader of the party because of people. He has not been a leader of the party because we, the South Sudanese, were in our party, we thought that he was the right leader, and the Equatorian people were supporting him. Now, where are the Equatorians? Where are the Nuers? Where are the Dinka who were supporting him? He just wants to be like, you know, being a chairman of a party, given instruction by another chairman of another party to do things. What kind of leaders are these?
Now,
what I was going to say, of course, this discussion is slightly different. From, wait a minute.
Okay.
Because obviously he's a representative of a political party, so he has to give he has to give a position. But I mean, from my point of view, I'm talking neutrally. And some of the things, especially now, I can't comment really on what's happening in the discussions because nothing official has come out. Everything that we hear is rumor, and we try also to keep away from that because most rumors are designed to create.
To me, there are no
rumors.
To me, there are no rumors because I'm being informed.
What I'm saying is that the media.
I'm being informed.
If the media gets information sometimes, the leaks
no rumors.
sometimes
I'm being informed.
No, there are leaks, but we also know that South Sudanese fabricate things completely. For example, there is this idea. I spoke to someone today, and they said, yes, the government has given the oil portfolio, the oil ministry, to the opposition, but now the opposition are fighting over it because the leader of the opposition wants to give it to his wife. That's what you were talking about.
That is not true.
But other members.
That is not true. That's what I heard. That is even an allegation. A propaganda purpose.
Can I finish what I'm saying? What I'm saying.
saying.
So this is the danger I'm saying about rumors, because since Riek has not, since Riek Machar or a representative government has said this openly to the media, we cannot quote it. So what they are saying, basically, the leader of the opposition wants to give it to his dear wife, but his colleagues are saying, "Come on, this is not a family issue." But of course,
it's a propaganda. It's a propaganda.
So from my position, there are things like this.
You can manage
there are things like this throughout South Sudan all the time. On Sudan, by the way, there are very clever people who create these stories in order to create havoc. So we steer away from it, and that's why I'm very happy to wait until there is an official declaration. Not leaks, but a proper declaration to the media or announcement to the media.
I'm officially informed, by the
way. We've got a number of people.
But not the propaganda, Dr. Riek Machar giving the petroleum ministry to his wife. No, that's not true.
I've got one or two, three people who have really made very good comments. One of them is actually watching the program from the United States, New Mexico, and he's thanking you, for the good comments you made, and he hopes these discussions would continue. His name is Raymond Gemens, and another one is Therese Lail Jube, and he said you can bring people, you can take bring people to. I think it's the illustration is that you can take an animal to a well to drink.
Take your donkey to the river, but you cannot make it drink.
You can't make it drink. So whatever happened, it has to be in there in South Sudan. It has to be, with the people of South Sudan to deal with it, as you dearly mentioned. Now, about, I should say about 10, 15 years ago, a group of boys were collected from Uganda by the American government, and they were taken to United States.
The Lost Boys.
The Lost Boys. These were 15-year-old boys.
Yes.
Several of them have gone into various areas. And
exactly.
One of them is now in the American Army as a big man now.
Not only one.
Yeah.
They also have diplomats.
Yeah. Now some of these people have been trying to get back to Sudan and maybe be positive in a way, and they are finding it difficult in a sense that the divisions which are already there, now with them, they don't see the tribe. They don't see the tribe.
Exactly.
They don't see themselves as belonging to the Nuera or the Dinka. They
or
look at themselves
or
as Sudanese. Now, one of them is
Peter Biar is a good example.
Yeah, who's in the army, and he says, look, he can go and help, but already they are being blocked by the Sudanese government in the sense that those who are there saying, hang on a minute, much as we would like you to come back, but taking positions within the government is not on the agenda. One of them even flew to Sudan during this peace process, and he was told, say, listen, I'm sorry, you can't be part of this process. All I'm highly educated, I've done this, I can help in New York, I've been doing this. But they say, no. I remember, I'm going on and on about, I wrote to the Secretary General of the African Union about this. And I said, me and a group of other journalists were saying, look, this is unfair that America is taking young Africans. This is modern slavery. We didn't really want it to happen. But then the Secretary General then was, I think, a Tanzanian, he's a Tanzanian fellow he died a couple of years ago, but he was the African Union Secretary General at the time. And he wrote back and he said, I've got that letter, I printed it. It's in my cabinet. And he was saying, look, get me any nation, get me any other nation which would have taken them. When America came, if we had had any protest from Uganda or Kenya or Tanzania, then maybe it would never have happened. But when they're taking people like that, and there's nobody voicing any concern, and we know they're taking them for a good reason, not for anything which is going to be bad. They're going to educate them, they're going to give them good, housing and to better their lives. Then why should we prevent them from going? So my argument now here is, for you as Sudanese, what are your views on this? Can you debate so much to make sure these boys come back and be part of the development of Sudan?
Very good. Very good question. Basically, the people in diaspora are not only the lost boys.
Okay.
We have a good number of people. The Lost Boys was a very, very good example that we've seen. They have been very successful. They had good education, almost 80% of them.
Oh, yeah, over 80%
okay?
of them. Yeah,
they came back, and I would actually cite a very brilliant gentleman who actually finished his PhD in Cambridge, called Peter Biar.
Okay.
Unfortunately, Peter Biar, because of the voice and the spirit that you just mentioned, that they are through boundaries of tribes. He had his voice, he organized himself, he ended up in prison.
In South Sudan?
He ended up in prison. They just released him. And this is very unfortunate.
Yeah, it is.
For example, myself and Mawan, it's very, very little we can contribute. And simply because we are in diaspora, forgetting that the nation of Israelites were predominantly people who were outside, organizing to realize the independence of Israel.
Yeah, of course.
The same thing to other countries.
Yes. But can't you put an organization together? Ghana has the Ghana Union. Put an organization together that the Sudanese Union that can be a bigger voice. The Ugandans are trying that.
They cannot.
Why?
The reason they cannot, after having even our generation, the generation of our children, they see me uncle. They don't even see me anywhere. They see him in the street. The child will cross the road in a very dangerous traffic. Crossing the road, greeting me uncle. For example, the other day, a Dinka baby calling me uncle. But those at home trying to control the whole situation and try to divide us and divide our children. Okay? That's why I say the lifeline of South Sudan will come from diaspora. Because me and Mawan, all right, if Mawan is a Dinka and I'm a Nuer, do we have any problem? Do you see it on our four faces?
We've been friends since we were teenagers.
No, we even challenge the situation in South Sudan.
You're the unique one.
To me, I contested governorship in the United States. they were saying that, what does Andrea know? He has never been in these bushes. Does Andrea know this road coming this way or going that way? He was just in London, they were saying. Okay? The people who are talking about that.
Yeah.
I was in the army of Sudan before they even had an idea of being soldiers.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay? They think that we are nothing, and that cannot take. Our people, with the quality they have in diaspora and the exposure, should be welcome to our country and contribute. Whereby this organization you were talking about can be promoted by our governments back home, and the benefit goes to them.
Of course, of course.
And it goes back to dictatorship. People who want to divide people are people who want to continue in power, and it is not out of anything rather than corruption.
Yeah.
Okay? Tribalism.
Exactly.
You know, and all these kind of things.
Yeah.
And people are fighting and all those kind of things. Like, for example, I quoted the Murle and the Nuer. Whose interest is this? It is not the interest of the Nuer to fight Murle or Murle to fight the Nuer. As people, they have nothing in between them. The thieves that happen, there could be Nuer thieves taking cattle from Murle, and there could be Murle thieves taking cattle and children from the Nuer. And all this, and this will come back to law and order. Do we have law that actually work on this? Of course not. The country is broken. So with this peace, we want to bring peace together. We want to bring our country back to normal. We want to see law and order so that our citizens, you know, survive and have peace. And by the way, through peace, we will forget about the past. And wiping out is not very good to anybody. And you will never win. Because you can see it from Somalia. The foreigner had to come. And foreigners can only help people who have a spirit of helping themselves.
I was going to support, I was totally going to agree with him. I'm really happy with what he said. You were saying
he has a political mind.
You are talking about,
he has a political mind, so I'm not surprised.
He has,
with his approach,
You were talking about the lost boys. And I think the tragedy of the long boys, the lost boys, and we are talking about hundreds of boys who've got degrees, they've got masters, a lot of them have got work experience.
500 of them.
Unique. It was an investment for South Sudanese people. When the older ones were fighting the North Sudanese. And then Garang and other politicians, they said, okay, these youngsters can go and be educated, and in the future, they'll catch up, they'll bring skills and develop the country. At the moment, because our leaders are fighting among themselves, the priority, like we said before, is not developing the country. It's for each faction to survive.
Of course, of course.
So when you survive, you actually shed everything. You go back to the bare minimum. So people in the diaspora, like he was saying, and our kids who are in America and Australia, been cut out because nobody needs them, because they are not a priority in this war. So what do? We need to get out of this situation. And I think really what we want to say in the end, and I hope that Andrea would agree with me, is whether we are talking about Kir or whether we are talking about Riek or any other politician, these are young men who made amazing decisions when they are young men in their 20s and early 30s and say, I'm going to fight and liberate our country. That's how they became leaders. And they dedicated 20 years, 25 years of their lives. 30 years now.
Yes.
To the war,
Yes. Exactly. They are not, we don't believe that these are bad people.
Yes.
They have to remember, but somehow they've forgotten what they sacrificed for. They've forgotten how they lost their colleagues and their comrades amongst them who were with them in the war front. Something has happened to their memories that led them completely forget the direction they are supposed to take the country in. And they've turned into themselves and become selfish, leading to the destruction that we have at the moment. We want them to be able to remember why they did that. So we are not forgetting to remind, we must never forget to remind them what their duties is. And I think what their duties are. And he is right. Maybe this is a second chance now, this peace agreement. That's why we've always advocated peace. If they can come together and the threat, the fear of being obliterated by the other side goes away, maybe they will come to their senses. And bringing back the young boys is part of this solution. People who can build the country.
Now, I was asked by a Sudanese lady, who I was telling about today's program and even last week's program, and she says, look, the problem of South Sudan, ask them about why the South Sudanese women are not involved in most of the political, you know the lady I'm talking about. She's been telling me that, and I said, look, that's one of the questions she really wanted me to, and a few minutes ago, I think she got something here. I said, look, what about the Sudanese women? You have highly educated women, but you are not involving these women. We've got a few minutes to go before the program comes to an end. Because I've seen that
one of the vice presidents is a woman now.
Yeah, yeah.
One of the vice presidents is a woman. I think we are getting there.
Yeah, you're getting there.
But we are not there yet. Yeah. And I think we are not doing very badly.
That issue
doing very badly.
That issue helped in Liberia, and it has also helped in Rwanda so much. The
absolutely.
Issue of, absolutely. Involving the women in this.
No, we need to involve the women.
Yeah, and
South Sudanese must come out from this terrible enemy called corruption.
Yeah.
From the very beginning, Brother Steve. In the agreement, we have it that there will be a share of 35% for women in South Sudan.
Okay.
The question is,
that's law.
Whoever will
it's a law.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. It is within our constitution. Like
all right.
Now, where on earth can we not have women? But we are getting there, as my brother Marwan is saying.
Okay.
That if the vice president, one of the vice president is a woman, Mama Nyandeng, we are actually getting there.
Of course.
We, the South Sudanese, really, we want to go according to modern times, but we still have some problem with, some issues going on with favoritism, individualism,
nepotism. Society. You feel you can act better when you are with your fellow
women. Have voices in South Sudan.
Yeah.
We have strong women.
Yeah.
We have strong women in South Udang.
Yeah. We have a battalion of women in the SPLA.
But we started like that. Khatib al-Banat, we have completely a battalion of women that were saying that we are not going to get married, we are getting married to the revolution.
Yeah.
And they are still there, actually.
Really?
So we just need to promote all those kind of things. We are coming up as a modern country. You know, we have that benefit of seeing the world going this way or that way. We want to go straight to...
Well, she doesn't believe you. She doesn't seem to believe that. It's
Nyandeng de Garang, Nyandeng de Mabior is the first vice president. Is a major step forward.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We another thing. You know, if you want to bring democracy and kill corruption, you must actually work towards, civil societies, political parties. The reason why I'm advisor on political parties, we believe in multi-party system. The tribalism will die with a multi-party system. The regionalism we have in South Sudan will die. We will see the quality of each and every individual in any party with their best manifesto that is actually liked by South Sudanese, and they will take the leadership.
Okay, I want to end on that note because the complete summary of a proper politician, where
thank you,
a proper politician on a selling point of on a selling point. Yeah, it's a campaign that started in advance. Started in advance. So I wouldn't be surprised. Just
that is real. It's not a campaign. I'm going
to keep this and I remember that when you are campaigning, this is what you said when you're finally now the leader somewhere in your position or somewhere in Sudan and you're holding, and I said, listen, I've got you on tape somewhere saying that this is how it should go, but now I'm seeing something different.
Let us put this appeal to the two gentlemen, the president of South Sudan, General Salva Kiir Mayardit, to please bring this peace to his people. And his brother, Dr. Riek Machar. War is not good for us. We look a shame in front of the world.
I know.
And I'm sure they have the capable to do it. Whatever behind pushing every one of them should not be the case.
Yeah,
They are directly responsible to bring peace to our people.
I hope this message goes across. I
Yes,
hope this
yes,
message
yes,
goes
please.
across,
Yeah.
it goes across, and we have peace in South Sudan, because
Thank you.
if the region hasn't got peace, it affects not just South Sudan, it affects other regions as well.
That's correct.
I'm a Ugandan. We have so many Sudanese refugees in Uganda, and
Correct.
it's this or that comes in.
It's a
usually,
burden.
it becomes a burden. And as it used to happen during Amin's time, we were scattered all over Africa because of what was happening.
We have
at home.
Ugandans in South Sudan business people, huge number.
War
Yeah.
is bad.
So we are
peace is
interconnected.
good.
It's quite terrible. Thank you very, very much, both, for coming here and on this.
Thank you for having us.
Very, very important
With my
discussions.
brother.
And I do, the brothership you've shown, it should be the brothership that should go
In
with
the country, yes.
So that
Yes, yes.
when you're in South Sudan, it's not this.
Please, all in South Sudan are brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
Unite and have one hand, one
Yeah.
spirit, one country, one
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, I do. I like that, and I
Yeah.
like that, and
absolutely.
I hope it works. The
Yeah.
real world is different, but
Definitely
sometimes
will work,
We
it will
have
work.
we
For the
have
majority of South Sudanese, is the reality.
Yeah.
It's the men with the guns.
we have to live in the reality. That we do hope that it works.
Yeah, thank you.
Once again, thank you very much for coming,
Thank you.
and I do hope that next time we'll be having something much more bigger to discuss as well, and we'll be next time discussing peace rather than what is going to happen. We'll have a
We'll be
full
discussing
report.
development.
Yeah.
That would
Could
be
be,
lovely.
could be.
I just want to thank you all for being together with us on today's Africa Speaks, and I do hope that we'll be together again